If you're not having fun with your WWE 2K25 universe mode, I'm going to show you how to quickly correct these easy mistakes so that you can end the cycle of spending hours setting up your universe mode just to never end up playing it. Make sure to like, subscribe, and check out all my other universe mode content. The first tip feels a little simple at first, but what I see a lot of people don't understand is the depth that goes into correctly balancing your rosters. This is where I feel is actually the #1 reason why people seem to lose interest in their universe mode immediately. You get all excited to set up your roster through drafting, then when it comes time to actually put them in feuds and push these superstars forward, that's where it all falls apart. I find that it goes deeper beyond just the draft. You need to focus on who are going to be your main stars in each division. So what I like to do is put my roster to a spreadsheet. It takes a few minutes, and then I pick out 2 to 4 people per division for the world titles in the mid-card and tag who's going to be the stars of that year. And just because I'm picking those as the stars of that year doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be the 2 to 4 that always hold the titles throughout the year. You can have mix-up of other people in the main event, mid-card, and tag that win the titles because the supporting cast matters as well. And when I say supporting cast, I'm not talking about just the mid-carders. They're supporting cast from the main event scene. Kevin Owens and Finn Balor, they haven't won world titles in a long time, but they're in the main event scene a lot. So I would say they're supporting cast. And to make sure the supporting cast is getting the needed attention in the build to make them reputable opponents, I make sure I kind of alternate. Maybe I'll have one star of a division face off against another star for a feud. Then the following feud would be a star versus a supporting cast member. That way you're keeping the division fresh. Yes, supporting cast likely will not win the title, but at least they're a legitimate threat and you're building them as a legitimate threat. And you're kind of allowing buffer periods between huge feuds and maybe smaller feuds. That way you don't feel like you're busting out every possible big feud all at once, and then your later years and seasons in universe mode become just pretty man, you lose interest. So make sure you have a clear path for each person in your divisions between the stars and supporting cast, because when you have that kind of plan, it flows much better and you really have a path forward of keeping excitement throughout your universe mode and not having that initial big opening and then not knowing where to go next. The next mistake a lot of people seem to make is they seem too focused on crafting a million different unique storylines, and this ultimately leads you to become overwhelmed and really disinterested in your universe. What you want to do is something similar to how you build your roster with 2 to 4 main superstars per division. You should focus on 2 to 4 main storylines for each division in a given year as well. That way your storytelling has a clear focus and you don't need to worry about jamming a million different storylines into a single year. Outside of your main 2 to 4 storylines per division, there will be time for you to have, those smaller and more seemingly generic storylines that are built on, #1 contenders matches, King and Queen of the Ring tournaments, and really those kinds of things where the title matches are earned and the stories are really developed naturally. This really allows you to focus your time and energy on having fun while you have these build-ups to your own unique storylines and planned out storylines, with these smaller ones where it's just build up quick in a match to really develop other superstars. Also, if you're having trouble, I have 3 videos with a total of 22 unique storylines that you can use in your own universe mode. Make sure to check that out after watching this video. The third issue I see that people make mistakes about is getting their roster to a point where it becomes too stale. So a great way to fix this mistake is with injuries. Injuries have been technically in the game for 4 years now, since 2K22 with the rivalry action. But that injury rivalry action just never seems to work, honestly. But you can do it manually, and this will really alter the course of your universe mode in many fun ways. So injuries are a great way to really help yourself deal with an overcrowded roster, or they can also be used as a long-term storyline as a way that you can come back to it in the future by having a little buffer period with that injury. So think about in real life. Let's think about how in the main event scene on Raw, it's been really crowded for a long time. CM Punk, Seth, Drew, Gunther, Jey Uso, it's really overcrowded. And on SmackDown right now, it's really only a focus solely of Cena and Cody, and they don't really want to add anyone else, or else that storyline would become too crowded. So think about how Seth Rollins took out Roman Reigns post-Mania. This really taking Roman Reigns off TV freed up a lot more TV room for other people than having a bunch of million different main event storylines because it's so overcrowded. But it also allows you to come back to that rivalry in the future of Roman versus Seth once Roman returns. You can also think about how right now in the short term, Seth and his faction just took out LA Knight with that, I believe it was a rib injury, something like that. So I don't think he's going to be out very long, but instead of a long build up, LA Knight's going to be gone for a little bit, just allow him to come back for probably a SummerSlam match against Seth. So think about how these attacks can allow you to have a guy injured for a little bit and then bring them back later, because you take them out of the picture for just a little bit and the roster becomes less crowded, and then eventually you bring them back for that big payoff. So it's a win-win in the short term because you get that less crowded roster, helping you have less stale, rivalries by mixing it up with having other superstars who haven't been shown on TV too much, get more TV time, while also setting up a future payoff with a big rivalry end when that superstar returns from injury. But also think about it, it doesn't need to be attacks like I just mentioned with those two examples with Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and LA Knight. Think about like brutal matches like the CM Punk and Drew McIntyre Hell in a Cell match, or think about how brutal street fights can be. After WrestleMania 39, when KO and Sammy won the tag team titles, they had that rivalry with the Judgment Day, and there was at least one street fight in that rivalry, and you can have injuries that result from those matches. So it doesn't need to lead to a future feud when you have an injury, but it could be at the end of a rivalry where the loser ends up with an injury and then sets them up for a bigger turn later on when they come back from that injury. And also the great thing about that is it also helps you make the roster less crowded as well. So make sure to take advantage of injuries because they happen in real life, whether it's an accidental one like Charlotte Flair when she tore her ACL, or like a planned one like Roman Reigns or LA Knight. Injuries happen, and it really allows you to shake up your roster in the immediate time frame, while also having big future plans when they return. The fourth big mistake I see people make that's really easy to correct is they get really excited about NXT Call-Ups or bringing in new superstars, so they really add them all into their universe mode at once, and then you really have no future beyond a year or two because everything that you had, these big storylines for Call-Ups or new superstars returning to WWE, are just used up and gone, and you get bored immediately. So when you focus on expanding your roster, you have to remember some superstars may get stale, some may not get used, and you might think, maybe I'm better off replacing them and adding up the new ones. So you want to do it as a slow burn. Don't add them all in at once. Take your time. So think about post-Mania. Maybe you have an NXT call-up in real life. You have Trick Williams, someone like that, waiting, maybe Obafemi. On the women's side, you just had a lot of superstars get called up. There's a lot more in the waiting. So it'll be exciting if you add them to the mid-card divisions post-WrestleMania. Don't add them in all at once right at the start of your universe mode. But also, don't forget about additions that are returning superstars from WWE. Obviously, this is one where people love to add in Daniel Bryan, Edge, those sorts of things back. But also, think about like a Rusev or Aleister Black return. Adding them all in at once just doesn't really make a lot of sense. But if you randomly have a Rusev or Aleister Black return, whether it be the Raw after Mania or randomly throughout the year, but it could really help you shake up a title picture randomly throughout the year rather than just immediately day one of your universe mode to help freshen it up if you feel like at some point your roster is getting stale. For the women's side, a ton of NXT Call-Ups has happened, as I said, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't ever add any more just because 3 new superstars can really shake up a division in both brands, but you wait a year or two, develop these new superstars, and then find a place for some more. Because you have Jordan Grace and Blake Monroe as a couple of examples who really have the potential to become stars. So taking a year or two to develop the new ones like Roxanne Perez, Stephanie Vaquer, Julia, it will really allow you to make room for more call-ups in the future instead of trying to add all these women like Jordan Grace and Blake Monroe with them to immediately just totally shape your roster in a new way, because it'll quickly become stale once you've overutilized these new talents and you have nothing left to add to. So make sure to take advantage of the NXT call-ups and new superstars. And also go ahead over to Community Creations, as you can find a lot of other superstars as well outside the WWE within Community Creations, as this will also give you future stars to add eventually to your universe mode instead of adding in like 10 to 20 new ones all at once to start and then becoming bored later. And with that, those are the 4 easy fixes I have to help make your universe mode a hell of a lot better. Make sure to like and subscribe. Let me know any other tips you have down below in the comment section.